So welcome, Leah, to the show. Welcome to the podcast. It's really lovely to have you here. So if you just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, so that we can get to know you a bit better.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I am Leah Rosenthal Kambic. I have been working with children for the last 25 years. And
Wow.
I started out in the late 90s. I'm dating myself, working as a teacher's aide in a preschool. And I worked my way up through the school. And I've done every job and the teacher, the assistant director, the director for many years. And I am now owner of four sites. And so we serve ages 0 to 12. And my sweet spot is preschool. That is my love, and that's what I've always, been the most connected to.
Yeah.
And at this point in my career, I have started my own coaching business, so which is called Parent Time. And it's really my opportunity finally to have the time and the wherewithal to actually dig deeper with parents. I was always doing, peripheral sort of coaching, like off the cuff, helping them through all of the many issues that they
Yeah.
run into. But this has been the first time that I've had time to really devote to it, and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something I think is very needed. I think so many moms are really in need of support. Of course, all parents need support. I
Yeah.
lean in a little more heavily on moms. They tend to be the ones that reach out and that want the
Yes.
support. So
I
just to
get
be
you. I'm the same way.
clear, equal
I'm just,
opportunity.
yeah, exactly. But like I said to you earlier, I have a 3-year-old. So
Hmm.
and so preschoolers can be their own special breed, can't they?
Oh, they sure can.
Yeah, I actually read a quote, I can't remember where or who said it, that you can have all the parenting tips and strategies that you can get, but with the kind of toddler, 3-year-old, 4-year-old stage, you just got to get through it and just sort of get to the other side. So
It's true. It's true to some
what
degree.
is yeah, what is it about that age do you think that's a little bit, I don't know what the word to use is, it full on? Yeah, that's the word, full
Maybe
on. It's pretty full on.
triggering for people. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I think that it's sort of a slap. You go from having this like sweet little baby to
Mm,
suddenly a person with
yes.
feelings and opinions and needs that they can voice in words. And, to me, being someone who loves this age group so much, the terrible twos, that kind of thing always kind of pokes at me because I
Mm,
just think they're not terrible. They're just,
I know.
they are brand new on this earth.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the previous owner of my center used to always say, 2-year-olds have only been alive for 800 days.
I know,
And when you
right?
put it in that perspective, it's like they are just trying to figure it out. They're
Yes,
trying to
yeah,
figure out how to be humans.
yeah,
So I think it's a little bit of a shock to parents when they start pushing back. And,
yeah.
3 is a whole different ballgame from 2 because they are so much more verbal and they're able to sort of stand up
Mhm.
for themselves. And it's a balance between wanting them to be who they are and allowing
Mhm.
them to be who they are, and also as adults running the house and being in
Yeah,
charge
yeah.
and not letting them, the tail wag the dog. So
Yeah,
that I think
I
is the trickiest part for parents.
it is, and I think it boils down, if we're honest, to control. Because when you have a baby, you control to a certain extent everything. You put them down in one place, they stay
Hmm.
there. They can't move anywhere without you. They can't do anything without. So in a way, you can, yes, that you can feed them on demand and all that kind of thing. But in a way, you control everything that they do. When they grow up into 2 and 3-year-olds, they can run off. They won't sit still
Hmm.
if you need them to sit still. They won't eat necessarily what you give them. So I think that's what causes a lot of the frustration. So when you are faced with a parent who's in that phase of, I just need them to just put their coat on, they're not doing it. What are some of the ways to navigate that stage?
That is such a perfect way to begin the conversation. It is all about control.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first stop on the train is, first of all, accepting that you do not have control and
Yes.
you will not have control. We can control little bits and pieces, and we can
Mm-hmm.
try our best to sort of outsmart our children, which I think is it's a lot of my methodology is, how
Yeah.
can we approach things where we may get the yes from them as opposed to yelling at them to get the yes and not getting yes.
Hmm.
So, the first place I go after acceptance is choices. Any
Hmm.
chance that you get to give a child a choice. When you think about that little friend who's been on this earth for 800 days, and they don't have a lot of choices really in their day, right? They're picked up, they're dropped off, they're in a hurry, they're taken here, they're
Yes.
taken there. And so, any chance that you can give them an opportunity to choose, even if it's, do you want to carry this or would you like me to carry this?
Hmm.
Do you want to walk to the car or would you like a piggyback ride? Every little choice you give them is one less power struggle.
Yeah.
Um, I think about as much as we want to be in control, they want it just as much.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, once you get into that power struggle, you will lose.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
They've gotten the best of you.
Yeah.
So giving them those choices and opportunities to have a little bit of stake in how their day goes, I think can make a huge, huge difference.
Hmm.
Just even thinking about as an adult, if somebody came in and you're in the middle of recording a podcast and said,
Hmm.
"Hey, get up, we're leaving." It's like, what are you talking about? Let me finish what I'm doing. Let me
Hmm.
wrap this conversation up. Could you have given me a warning? Could you have
Yeah.
given me a couple of minutes? So I think there's a lot to be said for just the respect of,
Hmm.
giving them an opportunity to understand what is coming next and when
Yes.
that might be. And those little tools can really make a huge difference.
Yeah.
I think adults forget to put themselves in their children's shoes a lot,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
don't blame us. We're busy, we're
Yeah.
working, we've got jobs and families and all of these things to juggle. So it makes sense that we don't stop and think. But the difference between taking that beat and giving them those
Hmm.
little bits and pieces, it might be the difference between you dragging your crying child out of the house
Yes.
or your
Yeah.
child happily getting into the car to go somewhere with you.
Yeah. Totally agree. And I think also adding in that little bit of flexibility. I always used to call it toddler time, which means when we're going out somewhere, you're walking at toddler pace. You're not in a hurry. They want to stop and see things. They want to stop and touch
Yes.
things. Just take it at their pace. Yes, of course, you can't always do that. But when you can, it makes such a difference because often, like you said, we're always dragging them from A to B. We've got to go here, we've got to go there. And most of the time they don't want to go to the shop or sometimes they don't want to do that. They just want to
Yeah, it's not
see
their
the
need, it's
world.
yours.
Yes.
And I love what you said there because the other piece, the other side to that coin is it slows you down and it allows you to see the things that they see.
Yes.
The world is fresh and new and exciting to them, and they're excited about all the things. Look at this
Hmm.
flower, look at that tree. And these are the things that in our busy life, I think we just skip over most of the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's sort of let's meet in the middle somewhere. And
Yeah,
let's join them at
absolutely.
their pace. Yeah, I love hearing that.
And I think the other thing at that age is what they're going through developmentally, right? Because I read something about 3-year-old and 4-year-olds are only just beginning to learn about impulse control. They're only just at the beginning of that sort of,
Right.
learning to not
Yeah.
do things because often they will do things, and as adults we'll go, "Why did you do that?" They don't know.
They have no idea. I love that question. The why did you is such a waste of words from
Totally.
adults to a 3-year-old. I was very impacted by this thought when I first started working with children a million years ago. That people always ask you when you work with kids, "Oh, how are you so patient? You must be so
Mhm.
patient." People who know me know I am the least patient person on earth. But what I am with children is I'm understanding. I'm
Yes.
understanding of their development. And I understand that you're exactly right. They do not understand or have impulse control yet. They are egocentric. They're not
Mhm.
hurting your feelings. They're not talking to you a certain way. They're just emoting. And so when we take it personally and when we are impatient, or forget to understand that you are only 800 days old or maybe
Mhm.
1200 days old, you're still a little person, and your intent is not to slow down my day. That's
Mm,
not why you're doing what you're doing. You're doing what you're doing because it is your job.
yeah,
And, when parents say, oh my gosh, just getting them in the car, it's such as, they're great at their job. They're really
yeah,
good at their job, which
yeah,
is to test the boundaries and seeing what
yes.
is okay, which is probably could be a whole
I
separate podcast, just boundary testing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of parents will struggle with, for example, let's say you've got a child who seems pretty smart, kind of, helps you out, kind of savvy. So then you are mistaken or lulled into this false sense of, oh, I think he's really capable of doing X, Y, and Z, and he's not, or she's not.
Mm-hmm.
But because they've exhibited some sort of advancement in one area, doesn't mean they're
Mm-hmm.
advanced in all areas. So you have
Absolutely.
parents who say, well, I thought I'm expecting them to do this because they seemed smart or whatever last
Yeah.
Tuesday.
And what you realize is actually the smartest kids are the best at testing. And they're the
Mm-hmm.
ones that really put your feet to the fire the most.
Yeah.
The kids that are super bright figure out, or maybe bright isn't the right word, but emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
they figure out what your buttons are. They figure out what's going to make you go through the roof and what is going to really drive you crazy. And, I think that it all circles back to that first notion of control. If they feel
Mm-hmm.
that they don't have any control, they're going to find it. They're going to get it. What I see a lot of struggle with in this age group is potty training is a huge one,
Yes.
where the
Yeah.
parents are like, he's so smart, he's ready, he knows where the toilet is, he knows how to pull up his own pants, but you send him to school in underwear and he has 19 accidents in the day, and it's like, oh, he's not ready. He's not emotionally ready. He knows that this is more important to you than it is to him.
Yeah.
And as soon as you can step yourself out of it and take your ego aside and recognize that, hey, just because I want you to be ready to do something
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that you are. You could bang your head against the wall for 6 months, or you could just stop, put him back in a
Yes.
diaper, and wait until the time is right and until he really shows
Absolutely.
you all the signs. Yeah.
I'm such a big advocate about not rushing children. I think there's such a thing in our society. We've got to get them reading, get them doing this, get them doing that. And it's actually quite, you have to have restraint to say, no, I'm going to let, them do it at their own pace because we are in such a hurry, it seems. Quick
Yes.
story, actually. I had a friend who had a very smart daughter. She read very early, all that kind of thing. But she was potty trained at 18 months because she was so smart, right? But then
Mm-hmm.
every time we went out, went to the park, went so many accidents. And I can see my friend getting the frustration with just getting to her. And I remember thinking, I know she's smart, but you could, if you waited 4, 5, 6 months, and she'd only be 2, which is still pretty
Mm-hmm.
good. And you would have
Mm-hmm.
saved yourself all this frustration.
So
And there
much
was just no
frustration.
hurry. But obviously, I didn't want to overstep. But I did think that in my mind that we are always so quick to rush them, you know?
Well, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's a symptom of a larger problem in our society because we're also rushing. We're always
Mm-hmm.
rushing. I don't know anyone that isn't in a hurry and isn't always feeling like they're late, especially working parents.
Mm-hmm.
You're always on this tight timeline and you've got to keep it moving. And, when we can slow down and when we can allow our children to slow down, all of our stress lowers. And
Yes.
it goes back again to that acceptance. This is who they are at this age. They are not in a hurry. They don't care about your agenda. Your needs are not theirs. They need to play. They
Mm-hmm.
need to hear music. They need to hear stories. They need to be listened to. They
Yeah.
need to be able to speak and feel heard. And we need to get the groceries and get the laundry done and get to
Yeah.
work on time and all that, none of that.
Yeah.
They don't care. And so, yeah, definitely. I think a general slowdown. I
Mm-hmm.
love that toddler time. I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
It's
You can have
true.
it.
I mean, if
Yeah.
you want to get there in 15 minutes, toddler
Mm-hmm.
time is probably 30 minutes. And if you're accepting who your child is and who all children are at this age, you take that banging of the head of that 6 months of, oh my gosh, why is
Yeah.
it so hard out of the
Yeah.
picture.
So
So,
true. And I will say this though, because my little one who's 3, he's at nursery now, and I have 4 kids and he's the youngest of 4. So I've got to get them all to school in the morning on time. So and
Bless your heart.
and my 3 year old, he loves to not wear clothes until the very last minute we need to. And
Hmm.
there have been times when I have said, we'll have to get in the car with no clothes on because we have to leave now. And that's
Yep.
because I'm right at the end of we need to go. If I don't go now, my eldest are going to be late. So what
Right.
are some tips to getting going in the morning when you're just not able to slow down? We need to go. We need to go now.
Yeah. That's a great question, and a very, very common issue. I don't know how you do it with 4. I have one and I stopped there. But I think there's a lot of little tips and tricks. But
Mm-hmm.
what you just said really was a very astute. Just, sometimes he's going to get in the car half dressed,
Mm.
and that's
Yeah.
okay. Have a little sense of humor about it, relax about it. No one's judging you. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
judges themselves more harshly than anyone else. I can't tell you how many children that we've had to tell their parents at school, just drop them off in their pajamas. That's
Yeah.
okay. Bring a bag of clothes, because once you've started this power struggle of you have to hurry, you got to get dressed, and they won't do it, and they dig in their heels, once you're in that, you're not, as
Mm-hmm.
mom, you're never going to get out of that.
No.
When you get to school, the audience is gone.
Yeah.
You're not ticking off mom anymore. So they typically will turn around and go, well, let me get my clothes on. Everybody's
Yeah.
playing. I don't want to be sitting here in my pajamas or half dressed.
Yeah,
So,
that's
I
so
think,
true.
timers, I love timers because they take the onus off of the adult constantly nagging.
Yeah.
I'm going to set a timer in 5 minutes, we'll start getting your clothes on. It lets them take a beat and kind of
Yeah.
mentally prepare. Okay, we're going to set another timer. It's almost time to leave. This is, your breakfast is on the table. Here it is. Come eat if you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
If not, you can eat it in the car. Again, choices. Are you going to, eat here? Or do you want to eat on the way to drop off your siblings? Let them
Mm-hmm.
choose, rather than you haven't eaten, you haven't put your shoes on, and now I'm frustrated and I'm stressed. The second they see you triggered, it's over.
Yeah.
They've won in their mind, and they know, okay, all I have to do is just keep digging in my heels and saying no. So I think, setting up a good system in the morning is really important. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, you have to accept the fact that you probably won't have every little thing done. It
No,
won't be
no.
perfect. There is no perfect. And that's okay. That's okay. Logical consequences mean so much more to children than nagging does. We can nag
Yeah.
them all day long, but when they get to school and they don't have their jacket because they refuse to grab it on the way out and
Yeah.
they're cold,
Cool. Yep.
wow, they're going to remember that, or, something along those lines, nobody's going to die, nobody's going to starve, but
Yeah.
just to, almost engineering the choices as the adult where
Mm-hmm.
they'll be okay either way. Do you want to
Mm-hmm.
wear your jacket or carry it? We say that to kids every day because maybe they don't want to wear it. Maybe it's too bulky or cumbersome for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And I'm cold, but you're running around and you're not as
Yeah.
cold, but you
Yeah.
have it if you need it and it's available to you. So I think, anywhere you can kind of sort of think about those big picture choices and give them opportunities to make decisions, and try your best to not repeat yourself 100 times. As soon
Yeah.
as you start
Yeah.
that process, they're tuning you out and they're realizing that you're out of ideas.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
again, it's like, okay, she's frazzled. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
double down. I want some candy for breakfast,
Yeah.
whatever they can try to get out of you. So, I have a theory that I've always said to parents for many years that, most of the children, at least in our population, in my area, in my centers, they have their basic needs met, right? They
Yeah.
have food, they have shelter, they have homes, they have love, they have parents, fortunately for them.
Mm.
So their survival instinct isn't about safety and the basics, it's about what they
Yeah.
want, and it's
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
what else can I get, and
Mm.
knowing, that we have to draw those boundaries and set those expectations. Yes, you can watch the iPad for a little while in the morning, but when the timer goes off, it's done. And, I am allowing you to have some of the things that you want, but these are the parameters. And even if the iPad goes off and they start crying and they get
Mm-hmm.
upset, that's okay. You know, parents are, I think we fall into this trap of trying to make sure our kids are always
Yeah.
happy,
Yeah.
and we forget that every feeling is important.
Hmm.
And for them to, you know, feel a little bit upset because we took something from them,
Hmm.
that's okay. You know, this is part of learning how to cope with disappointment in life.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the next 5 minutes, they'll find something else they were, you know, they'll be excited about.
But what
So,
what do you say though to that parent who's really frightened about taking something away or saying no because they're scared of the big, fallout, the volcano of eruption of emotion? Because I can even be like that sometimes. When we're at home, fine. If you're gonna cry, that's okay. You can scream because we're at home. If we're in the supermarket, please don't do
mhm,
that. I'm
mhm,
really, you try to pacify them as much as possible. Because you're scared of all the looks, the judgment, that whatever that is. So how do you navigate that? Because at home, I'm okay with them doing whatever they need to do to get out that emotion. But when I'm outside, I'm a bit more like, we can't have the
mhm.
melting down here.
I think that is definitely one of the hardest moments.
Yeah.
And, you know, I myself have left Target and said, we're leaving, we're
Yeah.
out of
Yeah.
here. This is not happening. But, you know, I think part of it is accepting the reality and
Mm,
recognizing that every parent has gone through that moment.
yeah.
And truly, when you are in that moment, if your child is melting down in a store, most of the people looking at you are thinking, oh, you poor thing, I'm so
Mm,
sorry.
yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Most people are not thinking you're a bad parent. And if they
Hmm.
are, they're probably not parents, or it's been a long time, or they've forgotten. And, you know, their opinion doesn't really matter unless they're parenting your child. So,
Yeah, that's
you know,
right.
but at the same time, I think, you know, in the moment, it's the reaction that the children are looking for. As
Yeah.
soon as, you know, when you let on that you are super frustrated with them, now you're both in this emotional spiral. And so, as much as you can kind of take a step back from it and say, I understand you're upset, you're sad,
Hmm.
that's okay. You can feel your feelings. I'm not upset at you for feeling your feelings.
Hmm.
Inside, you might be mortified, but what you show them on the outside needs to be more calm, and it
Yeah.
needs to be more understanding, because all feelings are valid. I was actually
Yes,
speaking to
absolutely.
a coaching client yesterday about this, that if we don't feel sadness, we also don't feel joy.
Mm,
So, you know, for our children to be told not to cry because we're in public, you know, that's not really a fair thing to say to them, really.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you're upset, you're allowed to be upset. But I'm not, you know, you're not going to give them what they're wanting
Mm,
because they're
yeah.
upset. You
Yeah.
can't pacify them that way, or they learn quickly that that works. They
Yeah.
do what works.
Yeah.
So even if it's literally just turning your back from them for a moment and just saying, you
Hmm.
know what, you're in the shopping cart. I'm going to turn over here and look at the cereal, and I'm not paying attention. I'm not
Hmm.
diving in and getting pulled into that with you
Yeah.
know, and then turning back and saying, wow, you look really upset. You
Yeah.
know, is there anything I can do to help you? No, not yet. Okay. Take your time, feel your
Yeah.
feelings, keep it moving. You know, when they don't have an audience and they don't get a big reaction, it
Hmm.
typically will end a lot more quickly. When we dive in and fall down the rabbit hole with them, that's when it can get really sticky,
Yeah.
and that's when usually you get more flustered as a parent, and that's when we want
Yes.
to then we want to yell.
So for this age group as a whole, what do you think is the sort of mindset that a parent should go into this approach in this age group? What's the mindset that they should have? Because we talked a little bit earlier about letting go of that control and have a bit of flexibility in terms of giving choices. But what else is going to really help you be successful in this stage?
Yeah, giving them choices, definitely
Hmm.
accepting that there is nothing abnormal about this. I think,
Oh, that's
you
so
know,
good. Yeah.
you can go on Instagram and see everybody's sweet little kids in their
Yeah.
perfect little outfits and their pictures. And really, 5 seconds before that photo was shot, that kid was screaming. They gave her a candy, you know, to calm her down to get the picture taken. And just recognize that you know, Instagram is not reality. What you see is not necessarily what, you know, people don't share the tantrums, they share the cute little moments. and that this is all part of the learning process. Our children at this age are learning how to be human beings in this world. And every single thing is new to them. Their job is to test every boundary. If they're not testing boundaries, they're not developmentally where they should be, really. I mean, this is how we learn. I love the phrase, and I use this a lot with my parents too. Boundaries make children feel safe. And, we shy away from taking the iPad away because we don't want them to melt down. Well, if you set the boundary every day and you're consistent and you follow through, eventually, and it's usually not very long, eventually they will start to learn what the rules are. Will they try to push back? Of course they will. And your job as the parent is to hold that boundary so that they don't get the message that, well, if I scream real loud, she'll give me what I want. And if I, get my mom spun up, then I'll get my way. And that is probably the biggest challenge. It's keeping your calm, keeping your cool, recognizing that this is supposed to happen. You're not failing if your child has a meltdown in Target. You're actually probably succeeding. Your child is melting down because you took something that maybe they shouldn't have, or that they were finished with, or you refused to buy them a thing. These are the things that we learn when we're little. And we've all met 40-year-old people that can't share. We've all met 40-year-old people that cannot take turns to save their life. They want to be first, and so they've got to learn it when they're little. That is, it's hard, but nobody ever said parenting was easy. And, the more consistency we give them and the more we follow through, say what you mean what you say, it is a process. And it's probably true what you said before, that it is a little bit of just getting through it, but it's getting through it with also kind of some parameters. And I think setting those boundaries and expectations are so paramount. I mean, from even, 18-month-olds, you teach them things, and, the word no is not foreign to them. But, we just want to find as many ways as we can to let them feel like they have some control, but really we've engineered the choice, picky eaters. If you want to have, maybe a night a week where your child gets to pick what they eat for dinner, but you don't let them pick anything in the whole world. You say, would you like to pick chicken or fish tonight? You get to pick.
You don't say, what do you want to eat?
Control. Oh, candy for dinner and popcorn, and I think also there's a piece where we put so much pressure on ourselves, especially working moms. I feel like, typically they're the default parent. They're doing all of the extra little things that add up to lots of big things. And so, sometimes throw a little curveball and have ice cream for dinner. Once in a while, just have a little fun and let go and see what happens, because we don't have to live our lives in this regimented way all the time. We should be consistent. We should follow through, and we can also be flexible and have a little fun and slow it down wherever we can.
I totally believe that. And I think a lot of parenting, not just preschoolers, just parenting in general, is the ability to learn how to regulate yourself. It's really because you're the only one that you're in charge of anyway. And a lot of what you're modeling is what your child will pick up on as well.
Oh, absolutely. I in listening to your podcast, I really connected to the triggered parent. I think being triggered and knowing your own triggers is so important, because and actually this is something that's really been swirling up to the surface for me lately. We were raised in a certain way, and we are now raising our children extremely differently. And so sometimes I catch myself saying something to my child and then thinking, why did I even say? I don't believe that. That's just what I was taught. Yes, I don't want that for him. I want him to be able to express his feelings and say what he thinks. And, this is a very interesting generation for parenting, because there's so much that has changed, and thank goodness, our little ones have a new experience coming for them than what we had. We were
Yeah.
be quiet, don't cry, keep your feelings
Yep.
to yourself, people
Hmm.
please, and I think sometimes we find ourselves triggered because these are things we wouldn't have been allowed to do,
Yes.
or we couldn't say what we
Yeah.
wanted to back to our parents. I want my child to question
Yeah.
authority. It is
Yeah.
hard when I'm the authority. I
Yeah.
won't lie. There are times when that's difficult, but I appreciate, and I always want the door to be open where he can ask the question, well, why is this
Yes.
the rule?
Yeah.
Great question. Let's talk about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not so age appropriate for 2 or 3, but
Yeah.
once, you're a little bit older, I think, we, again, it's giving them some stake in their life.
Hmm.
And when we're just acting upon our triggers because, hey, I would have gotten, a smack on the bottom for saying that
Yeah.
when I was a kid, and
Exactly.
I would never do that now. But, we have to recognize what sticks us in that spot where we're not really being
Yes.
conscious parents.
Yeah. It's like you're reading my mind because I was just thinking that right before you said it, because I was brought up in a very authoritarian household,
Hmm.
so giving my kids choices feels very alien to me because
Yeah.
I feel like I'm supposed to just tell them what to do and they're supposed to do it. But then I'm fighting against that sort of programming. But then when it
Yeah.
when it doesn't sort of work,
Hmm.
air quotes, then I feel a bit of shame because it's like you
Hmm.
see, you should have just done it the traditional way because now he'd be sat down eating all his vegetables with no choice. But because you've given him a choice, so there's that weird
Hmm.
sort of, push and pull back because I'm trying to fight against, generationally what I was brought up in, trying to do something different
Absolutely.
and sometimes feeling a little bit teaching on the edge of
You're
both.
walking on that line, a hundred
Yeah.
percent. And I would respond to that and say, you have to also remind yourself that we are parenting them for 18 years. And
Mm.
after that, they get to make all of their own choices.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we're not letting them choose things now, they will be helpless without us. We
Yes.
want them, we want them to, how do we learn? By making mistakes.
Mm.
We trip, we fall, we get back up again. And so, using the example before about, bringing a jacket to school, if you're cold all day, the next day, when I say, would you like a jacket? You're probably going to go get it. You
Yeah.
might not even need me to ask you. You're going to have that memory and that thought of, oh yeah, it was chilly and I didn't like that. Couldn't go outside at recess or whatever,
Yeah.
and so it's important to step back and let that happen, because we will not be managing them after 18 years from
That's
now.
right. That
They
is
will
so
be on
true.
their own.
That is so true.
And
Um,
childhood is crazy short. We feel
I
like
know,
it's so long, but you blink your eyes and it's done. So,
I know.
we definitely have to make space for that.
And in the setting, where do you still work in the kind of childcare setting now, or
Yes.
you
Hmm.
do? And are you still all about play? Because I know there's a lot of this thing about trying to make children sit down and in a structured sort of way even earlier,
Yeah,
you know?
my schools are all about play. We are
Hmm.
play-based, hands-on curriculum. We give them as much flexibility as possible in their day. And even our big kids that like our after-school children that we pick up
Yeah.
from school, they have been at a desk all day. And when they come to us, they want to paint, they want to run, they want to,
Yeah.
they want to be playful and just enjoy what matters to them because they've been
Hmm.
managed all day. So I truly, again, just like this societal slowdown, I think we could all use.
Hmm.
I don't know a single adult out there that couldn't use more play in their life. We all could
So,
use
yeah.
it.
Oh,
All
yes.
could use a little more levity and just enjoyment, or just under scheduled rather than over scheduled.
Yeah.
So yeah, in my centers, it is all about as much flexibility for them in
Yeah.
choosing what matters to them. They can come and paint for 5 minutes or they can paint for an hour. It's up to
Yeah.
you. Art is
Yeah.
here, you come and go.
Yeah.
And I think any time that you can incorporate sort of space around whatever you're doing, your toddler
Hmm.
time is the perfect framing for that.
Yeah.
Um, it's going to help because they feel that they get a decision. And it's
Hmm.
not just I'm being managed and I'm constantly being told where to be and what to do next.
Yeah. So just to I won't keep you much longer, but I wanted to maybe speak to the mum who's kind of overwhelmed and frazzled right now with her preschooler at home, because I've been there and somebody gave me
Mhm.
some really good advice, which was either take them outside or put them in the bath in some water. And those two
Mm,
pieces of advice have really saved me. If we're really
mhm.
struggling at home, we go out for a walk. If we can't go for a walk, then I get him in the bath, bit of water, few toys, and just sit there while he splashes around. And sometimes it's the
Yeah.
sensation, change of scenery, that really helps break up the day. But what else would you say to that overwhelmed, frazzled mum who's struggling at the moment?
I love breathing with your child, as
Mm,
silly as it may sound, um, or just letting your child see you in that
yeah.
frazzled moment. Stop, sit down, close your eyes, and take some breaths. They're not going to go anywhere. They're probably going to
Mm-hmm.
look at you sideways, like, why aren't you over here yelling at me? I thought you're supposed to fight with me back.
Yeah.
But showing them, you said modeling before, and that is exactly right. They're looking to
Mm,
you to see, what do you do when you're frazzled, mom? Because
yeah.
a temper tantrum is nothing more than a frazzled child who is overwhelmed by feelings.
Yeah.
So, let them see that sometimes you're frustrated, not by yelling at them, but by,
Yeah.
what? I need a moment. Take
Mm-hmm.
yourself a beat. Maybe you go walk to the backyard and sit outside and take some breaths. Maybe
Mm,
you say, I need to go outside. Would you like to join me? I think the outside is such a powerful tool. I remember even when my child was an infant, if he was fussy and we didn't know why, every
yeah.
time I took him outside, he would just, he's
Yeah.
looking at the birds and, looking around, and immediately would stop. So yeah, I think when we think about what really helps us,
Yeah.
we need to let them see that. And
Yes.
also, not pretend like you're Miss Mary Sunshine Happy Pants all the time.
Yes, that's so
No one
important.
is.
Mm-hmm.
And, children can feel shame around their own feelings if they feel
Mm,
like, well, you're never sad, mom. Oh my gosh,
mm,
are you kidding me? Of course I'm sad.
yeah.
Sometimes I'm angry, sometimes. And I think there's a lot to be said for just being honest about where you are. And if you
Yeah.
do snap, if you do yell, if you do lose it,
Mm-hmm.
apologize.
Yes.
Let
Yeah.
them know, hey, you know what? That I lost my temper, and
Mm-hmm.
I am really sorry that I yelled at you. And not because your behavior was so bad.
Mm-hmm.
I had a hard time keeping my body calm. So
Yeah.
instead of yelling at you, I probably should have just taken a break. I
Yeah.
probably should have walked away down the hall for a few minutes, you know, showing them that this is, all of these feelings are normal and okay.
Yeah.
It's just, I say to children all the time, it is okay to be angry. It's not okay to hurt people when you're
Yeah.
angry, but it's
Yeah.
okay to be angry. It's okay to feel anything that you feel. They are all
Yeah.
valid.
I always say kids can feel your energy. So even if you are pretending to be okay, they can feel that something's not quite right. And that probably makes them a bit anxious because
Oh
you're not
gosh, yeah,
admitting that, you feel
absolutely.
sad. So it's best just to say that
Yeah.
you're not feeling good. You just need a minute. I tell my little boy all the time, you know, I'm feeling a bit upset right now. And then he'll give me some space and he'll come back and he'll say, are you still grouchy, mummy? Are you still a grouchy, mummy? And I said, no, I'm feeling better now. And he go, okay then. you know?
And just the notion alone of space, for
hmm
them to be able to see you take space for yourself, teaches them that they get to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And instead of a tantrum, maybe the next time he might say, I need some space.
Yeah.
Like, get out of
yeah.
my face, mom. Okay. Thank you for telling me what you needed. I will
Yeah.
give you, and I will not
Yes.
talk to you until you're ready and you let me know. That is so empowering to them.
So,
Power and control are the two things that they are really just begging for all day
yeah,
long. And I think that empowerment is very, very important for them.
so true. So, where can our listeners find you online, connect with you, or, get to work with you?
Sure. So my Instagram is Parent Time Miss Leah,
Mhm.
with underscores. And you can always DM me through there. I do a lot of posting. I have a TikTok with the same handle. And that's usually the best way to reach me. I do one-on-one coaching, I do group coaching, and I, I'm developing some more sort of like
Mm.
I'm one of those that like I want to meet the need as it comes to me. So
Yeah,
when I start hearing a lot of people asking questions about potty training, well then I do something about potty training. So if there's something
yeah.
that the people need, DM me, ask me about it, and I will create something for you.
Perfect. Well, I feel like I literally could feel like I can talk to you all day. I feel
Oh,
like
thank
there's
you.
more.
Same. I think we're
Oh,
definitely of like mind here. I
I
appreciate
think
it.
so too. So I'm really, really
Yeah.
happy that you came on, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me and sharing some of your wisdom.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for this platform, and I really appreciate what you do. I don't think there's enough of us saying these things to parents and just
Yeah,
giving them that support that they need. So I really appreciate what you're doing as
absolutely.
well.
Oh, thank you, Leah. Thank